Well, brand new controversy over the tax cut compromise. Vice President Joe Biden defending the deal as necessary, but calling it nonetheless, quote, morally troubling, echoing the thoughts of a group of black church leaders who call the tax deal a moral injustice. And that is a term being used by many who say they oppose these tax cuts, that's what they call them, for the rich. So, do the rich have a moral obligation to pay more than they already do? Michael Reagan is the chairman of the Reagan Group at Reagan.com and a political consultant. And Leslie Marshall is a syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor. Panel, welcome. All right, so Michael, let me start with you on that, because the argument has sort of spilled out of, okay, you know, is it good for the economy? What's going to do for the deficit and so on, to there's been sort of a shirking of one's moral responsibility by the rich in supporting this tax deal.
There's no shirking of responsibility. The rich already pay more in taxes than anybody else. The poor don't pay taxes at all. The rich are talking about small businesses that create jobs, if you will. And the reality of it is, if you take it away from the rich, then they're not able to give it to charitable causes. And if you look at what's going on now with 501c3s in America, they're down because the rich didn't know what was going to be happening as of January 1st of this year. So if you want to take it away from me, then I'm not going to be able to give it to my church. I'm not going to be able to give it to, for example, the John Douglas French Alzheimer's Foundation, which I also chair, to find a cure for Alzheimer's. No, you can't take it from the rich and tell me I'm morally reprehensible because I'm not paying more in taxes. What I don't pay in taxes, I give to charity.
You know, according to the tax experts, Leslie, the top 1% in this country of taxpayers pay more than the bottom 90%. It's not just the bottom 50. The top 1% pays more than the bottom 90%. So what is morally corrupt about keeping their tax rates as they currently are?
Well, first of all, I think the idea that we have the words moral, politics, and tax in the same sentence is scary. It really is. Although I do believe in to whom much is given, much is expected. So whether it is a moral responsibility or just a personal responsibility, I do think that in a society, and not to sound like a socialist, but the haves should take care of the have-nots. It has always been that the top 1% of earners throughout the world have not only the power, but do support the other 99% and actually have the power over that 99%. So what bothers me about the black church leaders is the benefits in this tax package benefit many within their congregations, and the president has constantly said he begrudgingly agreed to the 2-year extension on those Bush tax cuts.
But they're not happy that the unemployment benefits were not just extended. They think it was wrong that the president cut a deal to extend unemployment benefits in exchange for keeping the tax rates on the rich at their current levels. And Michael, they seem to be saying that that's morally corrupt, something the vice president also echoed. And now you had O'Reilly talking about this last night, and the way he put it was they're trying to co-opt Jesus.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The church, the black church is going to Washington talk about, you know, moral corruption and what have you. You know, if they would spend more time in the pulpit speaking about the 1,500 black children that will be, in fact, aborted today, speaking about unemployment within the black community, talking about the fact that the education on the Amboseli or the Mara in Kenya to a black child by the Maasai is better than a child in the inner cities of America. Or the fact that 40 million children will go to bed tonight without a father in the home, many of them in black families in America. Or the fact that most children born into black America are born into fatherless homes. That's the job of the church in the pulpit. That's where they need to be. Stay out of Washington, get back into the pulpit, and start raising your church to be morally right.
You know, Leslie, he raises issues in particular about the black community. Right there, Michael Reagan was sounding a little like Bill Cosby, who has had a message that's not unlike that one, saying sort of folks need to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and not rely on others to do it for them. Is that the message that is being sent by those who call this tax deal morally corrupt? I mean, does it send a message to those who are in the bottom 50% of earners that you needn't worry about it yourself? We're just going to guilt the so-called rich into taking care of it for you?
Well, first of all, I think they're trying to connect the dots in a very different way. We won't even get into the WWJD guys. And Michael, the fact that I've just agreed with some of what you said is scary. I don't like politics in the pulpit, in any church, synagogue, mosque, etc., throughout the country. When it comes to these leaders and what they are saying is they're not recognizing the best negotiation is when you get most of what you want on both sides, yet you leave something on the table. Is it morally reprehensible that the president cut a deal to get unemployment for the rest of the country? No. He was doing his job for the best interest of the American people, irregardless of their political ideology. And that, in my opinion, should be commended by those in the community. In other words, be happy for what you got. Don't chastise the route it took to get there.
We've been talking a lot about guilt this hour. Last hour with the religious panel, we talked about Catholic guilt. Now we're on to the guilt that maybe the rich need to feel. I don't know. I feel like Nana's the senior producer of today's show. Nana, you'd be proud. Michael Reagan, Leslie Marshall, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
My mom